You have been loving my Storybook landscape illustrations, so today I'm serving up a watercolor winter wonderland in my new favorite sketchbook from Arrtx. Welcome back. My name is Shayda Campbell, and around here we make art and it's fun, not scary. And these storybook landscapes that we've been doing over the past few months are a great example of how something can look complex and be broken down into a really simple, fun project. And don't forget, you can get the reference image to help you out. Now, today's video is sponsored by Arrtx, and they sent me these uniquely colorful and thoughtfully designed watercolor sketchbooks. It's so important that you find a sketchbook that has proper watercolor paper. Now, these ones are hardcover, which I love. They have this cute little pocket at the front, so you can actually tuck some little notes or supplies in there, tuck a pen at the front. But you can see the hardcover, it says Arrtx on the back. Even the smaller ones have that little pocket, so you can, put a little pencil in there or keep some extra paper scraps for testing color on when you're out and about. The sketchbooks also come in a variety of different sizes, which I love. I think it's so fun to challenge yourself to work small sometimes. Or if I go away for a week, I'll take a tiny sketchbook and just do like little mini daily sketches. And then most importantly, the paper quality is excellent. It's 100% cotton. It's 300 GSM or 140 pound, which means it's nice and thick. It takes the wet media beautifully, very absorbent. You get really good color lifting. You'll always know a cheap paper if you can't lift the color when you want to. And it comes in hot press or cold press, which is so important to me because I love cold press, but I really love hot pressed when doing mixed media pieces like the one we're about to do today. If you've been in the market for a new sketchbook or thinking of gifting a beautiful sketchbook to the artist in your life, check the video description for links to all these products. Anyway, let's jump right in because we have so much to cover. I'm going to be working in this larger sketchbook, and I've already drawn my little storybook illustration image. I have the same exact reference image that you can print out over on Patreon. I give bonus content there every week. It's just $3 a month to join and get all like the extra coloring and reference pages and worksheets. So what we would do is use a piece of graphite transfer paper, just like you see me doing, to transfer it onto that watercolor paper. You trace over it, you lift it up. It's like, okay, I missed a few spots. You keep going, trace over any spots that you missed. And then once you are done, I still missed some spots there, but that's okay. I'll just fill them in with pencil. Then you've got basically a coloring book image that you get to have the fun of painting. And that's what I really want to do together is a nice wintertime cozy paint along. And the first thing I'm going to do here is just mix up a nice cherry red. This is magenta with a hint of burnt umber. And we are going to paint some of these houses in nice holiday colors, kind of cozy, cutesy colors. And so I definitely want to do like a red house and a pink house. And today we will be using my Shayda Campbell watercolor set. That's available on Amazon.com. I'm going to link that in the video description, but use any watercolors that you have on hand. I'm also linking my favorite paint brushes as usual. And I just mixed like a very light pink. So added some white basically and water to the cherry red. And we're going to do a little pink house. I'm using a number 6 round brush to fill in. Round brushes are great because they have that nice big belly that holds lots of paint, so you're not constantly going back to the palette. But they also have a fine, delicate point so that you can do detail work and sort of paint around the windows, and in this case, paint around the chimney. This is just a mix of burnt umber with white, so a nice creamy tan color. I think that looks cute with the red and pink, and it'll look nice, a nice warm color that'll look good with all the blues of the sky and the snow. And speaking of blues, we're going to mix a really light blue. So you could use like a transparent turquoise mixed with lots of white, or a little ultramarine or cobalt mixed with lots and lots of white. And I just sort of painted in my little skating pond, skating rink down here at the bottom. And then for the sky, we want a sky that is dark enough that the snow will show up on top. And we'll add snow with a little white paint later. So you can mix maybe a dark blue, like an ultramarine or even indigo, with a little bit of Payne's gray, which is a blue-gray. I still mix lots of white in because I wanted it to have like a dark look, but not too dark, if that makes sense. Like, like almost like a creamy cobalt or a creamy navy. And that's a weird descriptor, but I also feel like it perfectly describes this color. And you might have noticed I switched to a larger brush. Use a number 8 or a number 10 to fill in the sky. You're going to carefully go around the rooftops and houses For these larger trees that border the illustration, I painted right over the limbs, but I kind of left the trunks blank. You could paint right over the trunks. And then for the moon, what you want to do is you can paint right over the moon, maybe use a watery paint, just a bit of water to go right over it so there's no break in the sky, and then lift some of that color using a paper towel or a cotton ball. That'll easily give you the look of the moon glowing in the night sky. And then you can see I ended the sky with a sort of arch. So the top of the illustration has this pretty arch to it. And then I'm going to use that same cherry red for the final house. I wasn't really sure what color each house was going to be. Sometimes it's nice to get into a piece and kind of see where things are going. I do that a lot. I always feel like when I'm painting and illustrating that I'm problem solving. So I don't know what color all the houses are necessarily going to be before I begin. I want to see what the blue looks like and all the white roofs, and then say, okay, yeah, I think we need 2 red houses or whatever. And then for this guy over here, I just want to add a bit of a gray brown, a warm gray to the chimney, because we'll eventually draw a bunch of little rocks on there and make it look like a stone chimney. So just a bit of Payne's gray with burnt umber in it to warm it up. And what else? We could do a few dots of gray there just to start to hint at the look of those stones that we will later illustrate. Remember, this is a mixed media piece. I love the storybook whimsical quality that we get when we start with watercolor and we finish up with colored pencil or crayon or marker, whatever. But we still do need to lay down the first layer of color with paint, like, you know, the color for the houses and the sky and the pond. But then I do want to do some details with watercolor. Like here you can see me adding a bit of burnt umber to the underside or kind of the edge of the roof. I did get a bit of a bloom on the chimney. That's fine. I just used a bit of paper towel to lift the color, but it makes the snow look more realistic to just see the little bit of brown roof peeking through. We can paint the chimneys, but I will say if using a tiny paintbrush and going in and doing some of this more detailed paint work kind of freaks you out, or you're just like, not for me, just do it with colored pencil or brush pen. It will look just as nice. The one thing I might try to do with paint is exactly what I'm doing now, and that is to take a mix of gray with lots of white, so either a French gray or Payne's gray with lots and lots of white in it, and do some of the shadows. So there's going to be little curving shadows at the base of each tree, on the pathways. I did some like little footprint almost pathway up to that final house, that upper house. You can do a bit of shading on the snow on the roof, like there might be a bit of an indent, you know, in some of the snow. Or for this house down here, this peaked area of the roof is going to cast a bit of a shadow onto the snow. And with that said, whether you do the detail, some of the finer details with paint or pencil is not too important, but I will say the paper in this book is 300 GSM, 140 pound, and it just takes the paint so beautifully. You can see the nice smooth color that we're getting on the houses and the pond and even the sky. And I always find larger areas like sky hard to do, but it looks really good. And we've got that nice glow around the moon, the soft glow. And one of the final things that I want to add in paint is just the trees. And I mixed hooker's green with burnt umber, so I have this really warm dark green. And I am just hitting the paper with the brush and just doing these messy marks to hint at these little shrubs here. So very free and messy. And then for the pine tree, here's what we're going to do. Starting at the base of the tree, use the tip of your brush to do a bunch of vertical brush strokes and fill in the entire bottom section, leaving maybe just a hint of negative space. You're trying to paint a snowy pine, so not a lot of snow is going to sit on that bottom part. Then you move up to the second section, and you are going to use vertical brush strokes to paint the entire section, leaving the bottom area of that section white, so it looks like snow is sitting there. Move up to the third section and leave the very top and the very bottom white. I actually painted the whole top, but that's how you get the look of a snowy pine, and you do it rather simply. And if there's 4 sections, you just keep moving up. And then for the bushes that have a bit of snow, you can just do dots of of green and leave dots of negative space. And voila, we've got some snowy trees and bushes, and we're actually done the painting portion of this Storybook whimsical wintry landscape. Now we get to move into my favorite part, which is adding all the colored pencil, and that really means adding all the detail. So grab your colored pencils, grab your pencil sharpener. You don't want to hesitate to sharpen pencils because you can't find the sharpener. The first thing I'm going to do is grab a nice medium brown, and we are going to color in the tree trunks. We've got these two beautiful leaning winter trees that beautifully border the illustration and sort of border the town. They're almost comically large. Maybe they're a little too large. No, they're not too large. I don't know. It doesn't really, sometimes I don't worry too much about proportion when I do these more whimsical landscapes. And what I wanted to do with these is have the leaning winter branches that look like they're curving over the town, and the curve of them just looks to me like the winter winds have had their way with them. So just do some curving lines, and I think that the whimsical look of even having a bit of a curving trunk, it just looks so pretty. And you can do all that with a single colored pencil. I love this mixed media approach because most of us are more comfortable with a pencil or pen, so adding the detail doesn't seem as scary as it might with a paintbrush. And another nice thing is this sketchbook has hot pressed paper, and I have to tell you, it is not easy to find a good sketchbook with hot pressed paper. Cold pressed, sure, but cold pressed has more tooth and texture, so the paper is not as smooth. And when you are adding pencil or pen at the end, I do find it's nice to have that smooth texture so that you're not sort of fighting against the paper and picking up the texture with your pen or pencil. Now, Arrtx also does have cold pressed. I will use those for my gouache and watercolor pieces, but for my mixed media, I really love the hot pressed. And so you can see what we do is we just get to kind of play. And I've added the little fence. I just drew in the fence a couple lines. I'm using a couple different grays to add the stones to this beautiful stone chimney. I just started with a medium gray and did some circles and ovals, and then took a darker gray and kind of outlined them a bit, added some shading. I did the little window boxes and the door on these lower houses. And then I'm going to use a beautiful cherry red for the window panes or the shutters on this guy. So I'm loving all the pinks and reds. Another thing you want to consider is just simple shading. So taking a red and doing some shadow underneath the roof, underneath the window boxes. If you have a dark red, use a burgundy to do the shadow under the windows, the ledges, that kind of thing. It just adds a little bit of extra dimension to your work, and it's a very simple thing to do. Just follow the lines of the roof, the lines of the windows and window boxes. And that's really my formula. We're adding shadows and we're adding details. So we're having fun doing little ribbons and wreaths and window panes. You can add color, as much color as you like. Although a note about the color palette, I did want to keep it. At Christmas, I always want things to look colorful, but not like rainbow. And my tip there is just simply avoid some colors. So the colors that I'm avoiding here are yellow, orange. I'm using sort of a red, blue, pink with brown and green. And so there's lots of nice colors, and we're using different blues and different pinks and reds, but we don't want it to look too rainbow-y because I think it loses a sort of wintry, Christmassy holiday feel. But that's just me. I will use a creamy yellow on the moon, and I'm using like a purpley blue on this door here. And you're thinking about detail, so adding a few bricks to the houses, stuff like that. I used that same creamy yellow on the window panes, but then I felt like they weren't warm enough, so I went through and I added a warmer golden yellow to give the windows that glow. But I'll be honest, I wasn't sure I liked it. It is adding a lot more color to the piece. Now we've got all the primary colors along with green and pink. So quite colorful, I would say. But we can come back to that, as I said before. Anytime I do an illustration, a piece of art, it's all problem solving. I'm constantly asking myself questions and saying, how am I going to figure that out? I added a little bit more gray to highlight or sort of make those footpaths stand out. I'm using a nice orangey red here to add some little baubles or dots or lights. They could be lights on some of the trees and bushes, but I'm not going to do all of them. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with it at this point. I'm just questioning the golden yellow. I added a little bit of cobalt blue, or like a periwinkle blue to the bottom of the sky to darken the sky near the horizon ever so slightly. So just a bit of shading with sort of a medium blue pencil. And then this is when the magic really comes together with this piece. We are going to take a bit of white gouache. You can also use a white gel pen, a white paint pen, a white pastel if you can get a good point on it. Basically any medium that is opaque. And we are going to use a small brush and do lots of little dots. So that's how we're going to make it look like it's snowing. And we're just going to fill in the sky. And then we can also do a few dots, tiny dots, just in front of the trees and the houses. And then I did just do some thin lines of white to indicate snow sitting on some of those tree branches. And I think that looks really pretty and whimsical. At this point, I would consider the illustration complete, but that golden yellow was bugging me. I just think it looks too colorful. So I am using white gouache mixed with like a tiny bit of yellow to give me this basically cream color. I even mixed in a little bit of pink so that I had this sort of pinky cream that really goes with the color palette that I'm doing. Goes with my color palette. And then I let it dry and I just went over all the window panes. And that to me was like, okay, there, I problem solved. I like that better. The houses don't have quite as much of a glow, but I think the color palette overall is working in a way that I really like. And then I just signed it and dated it. And there you have it, a whimsical winter storybook landscape in my new favorite sketchbook with hot press paper from Arrtx. This illustration comes together really easily when you have the reference image. To get that, all you have to do is become part of our lovely creative community over on Patreon. Sign up today. And friends, go check out Arrtx on Amazon. I simply love these sketchbooks. The paper quality is excellent. I love that you can get a watercolor sketchbook with hot pressed paper in it. I love the colorful designs, and you will see these sketchbooks coming up in many videos to come. So definitely, if this is looking like something that you might be into and you like following along with my videos, find that link in the video description. And heading into the new year, invest in a quality watercolor sketchbook from Arrtx. Thanks for being here. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you soon with a new tutorial.